The North Atlantic, 1980. Deep beneath the gray, churning waves, a game of cat and mouse is being played, but the rules have just changed. A NATO destroyer picks up a contact. It is faint at first, but then the sonar operator stares at his screen in disbelief. The contact isn't trying to hide, it is accelerating. The numbers on the display climb past 30 knots, then 35, then 40. The operator taps his gauge, assuming a malfunction. Submarines do not move that fast, but the noise in the headphones confirms it. It sounds like an underwater freight train. This is not a glitch. It is Project 705, known to the West as the Alfa Class, a machine so fast it could outrun the very torpedoes designed to destroy it. A vessel built entirely of titanium, powered by a reactor filled with molten metal. Today, we are diving deep into the history of the Soviet Union's most ambitious, expensive, and dangerous engineering experiment. Before we seal the hatch, if you appreciate the immense historical effort required to dig up these declassified Cold War files, please leave a like on this video. It helps us keep the history alive. To understand the Alpha, we have to go back to the early 1960s. The Cold War was heating up, and the United States Navy had a distinct advantage in submarine silence and sonar technology. The Soviet Union knew they could not win by simply copying American designs. They had to leapfrog them. They needed an interceptor, not just a submarine that lurked and waited, but an underwater fighter jet that could sprint from a naval base, hunt down enemy missile submarines, and destroy them before they could launch a nuclear strike. In 1959, the Soviet leadership issued a directive to the design bureau SKB-143, later known as Malakit Marine Engineering Bureau. The chief designer, Ruslanov, and later A.B. Petrov, were given a blank check and a terrifying set of requirements. The ship had to be small, highly automated, and faster than anything else in the ocean. This brings us to the first major defiance of physics, the hull. Steel, the standard material for shipbuilding, was heavy and magnetic. To achieve the speeds and depths the Kremlin demanded, the engineers made a radical decision. They would build the entire pressure hull out of titanium alloy. Titanium is as strong as steel, but half the weight. It is also non-magnetic, which meant the Alpha would be invisible to magnetic anomaly detectors, or MAD sensors, used by NATO patrol aircraft. But there was a catch. Welding titanium is an industrial nightmare. It cannot be welded in open air because it reacts with oxygen and becomes brittle. The Soviets had to construct massive, hermetically sealed warehouses filled with argon gas. Workers had to wear pressurized suits, like astronauts, just to weld the hull sections together. The cost was astronomical. In the West, intelligence analysts later nicknamed the Alpha the golden fish, joking that it would have been cheaper to build the hull out of solid gold. But a light hull wasn't enough. They needed power, massive power in a tiny space. A standard pressurized water reactor was too heavy and bulky. So the Soviet scientists turned to a technology that was incredibly potent, but inherently unstable: the lead-bismuth-cooled fast reactor, specifically the OK550 and the BM40A models. Instead of water, these reactors used a liquid metal alloy as a coolant. Liquid metal can absorb far more heat than water, allowing the reactor to be incredibly compact while generating an obscene amount of energy. This allowed the Alpha to generate 40,000 shaft horsepower in a vessel displacing only roughly 3,000 tons. It was a race car engine inside a go-kart. This liquid metal technology allowed the Alpha to go from 0 to top speed in less than a minute. Think about the inertia of a submarine. Accelerating that much mass that quickly is almost unheard of. It could turn on a dime, maneuvering with an agility that left American commanders sweating. In war games, the Alpha didn't just evade pursuit, it turned the tables, circling behind the hunter to become the predator. However, this liquid heart came with a deadly flaw. The lead-bismuth alloy had a melting point of 125 degrees Celsius. If the reactor temperature ever dropped below that, the coolant would freeze solid. The liquid metal would turn into a block of rock inside the pipes, instantly destroying the reactor and turning the submarine into a radioactive tomb. This meant the Alpha could never truly be turned off. Even when docked at port, the reactor had to be kept running, or superheated steam had to be pumped into the ship from the pier to keep the metal liquid. This logistical nightmare would eventually haunt the Soviet Navy. Let's talk about the crew, or rather the lack of one. A standard attack submarine of that era carried over 100 men. The Alpha carried roughly 30. This was the dawn of extreme automation. The Project 705 submarines were designed to be run almost entirely by computers. The systems were named Accord, Sargan, and Rhythm.
The crew consisted almost entirely of officers and warrant officers. There were no regular sailors. The idea was that every man on board was a specialist, an elite engineer capable of managing the complex systems. The command center, or control room, looked more like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise than a damp diesel boat. Officers sat in ergonomic chairs in front of screens, managing the ship with joysticks. It was a vision of the future, realized in 1971 when the first prototype, K-64, was launched. But reality has a way of crashing into theory. The K-64, the first of its kind, suffered a catastrophic failure in 1972. The liquid metal coolant froze in part of the loop, damaging the reactor beyond repair. The submarine was taken out of service and cut in half for study. It was a failure, but the Soviets didn't stop. They built 6 more: K-123, K-316, K-373, K-432, K-463, and K-493. These production models terrified the West. When the US Navy realized the Alpha could reach speeds of 41 knots officially, and rumors suggested even higher bursts, panic set in. The standard American torpedo, the Mark 48, was designed to chase submarines moving at 25 or 30 knots. Against an Alpha running at full tilt, the Mark 48 simply couldn't catch up. The Alpha could literally outrun the weapon designed to kill it. This forced the United States and Britain to spend billions developing the ADCAP programs, or Advanced Capability Torpedo programs, and the Spearfish torpedo, specifically to deal with the threat of the Alpha. I want to pause here and ask for your opinion. Imagine being the captain of an Alpha. You have the fastest ship in the world, but you are sitting on a reactor that will turn to stone if you make a maintenance error. Would you trust that technology with your life? Let me know in the comments below what you think of that trade-off. The Alpha's operational history was intense but short. They served in the Northern Fleet, primarily out of Zabinaya Litsa. They were loud. That was the other side of the coin. At high speeds, the Alpha screamed. The flow noise around the hull and the machinery noise made it easy to detect. But the Soviet doctrine was, it doesn't matter if you hear us, if you can't kill us. It was a brute force approach to naval warfare. However, the maintenance was a constant struggle. The specialized infrastructure required to keep the liquid metal molten was fragile. Pipes leaked, heating systems failed. The Soviet Union was beginning to crumble economically in the 1980s, and the Alpha Class was a hangar queen, expensive to keep and demanding of resources that were becoming scarce. One by one, the Alphas were retired. The risks of a nuclear accident were deemed too high, and the newer generation of submarines, like the Sierra and Aquila classes, offered a better balance of stealth and speed using conventional pressurized water reactors and steel or titanium hulls without the liquid metal eggs. K-123, one of the longest-serving Alphas, underwent a reactor replacement that took nearly a decade, a testament to the difficulty of working on these machines. By the time the Cold War ended in 1991, the Alpha was already becoming a dinosaur, a very fast titanium dinosaur. They were decommissioned and scrapped, a process that was incredibly difficult due to the solidified radioactive coolant inside the reactor vessels. Today, the Alpha Class remains a legend of engineering. It stands a monument to a time when physics was just a suggestion, and budget constraints did not exist. It pushed the boundaries of material science and automation further than anyone thought possible. While it was strategically flawed due to its noise and maintenance, it forced the entire NATO alliance to change its weapons and tactics. It was a failure that changed the world. The Titanium Interceptor proved that we could build machines that were faster than they had any right to be, provided we were willing to pay the price in money and danger. If you want to see more deep dives into the mechanical monsters of the Cold War, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We have files on the Typhoon class and the Akranaplan coming up next that you do not want to miss. To fully grasp the magnitude of the Project 705 gamble, we must examine the specific incidents that proved the critics right, particularly the harrowing ordeal of K-123.
While the K-64 failure in 1972 was a prototype teething issue, the accident on April 8, 1982, involving K-123 demonstrated the terrifying reality of liquid metal in an operational setting. K-123, under the command of Captain A.F. Borisov, was operating in the Barents Sea when a leak occurred in the primary coolant loop of the reactor. This was the nightmare scenario. Approximately 2 tons of the lead-bismuth eutectic alloy leaked from the reactor circuit. While the reactor scrammed, shutting down the fission reaction, the radioactive liquid metal began to seep into the reactor compartment. As it cooled, it did exactly what engineers feared. It solidified. The metal welded components together, freezing the reactor compartment into a solid, highly radioactive block. The crew managed to surface, and the vessel was towed back to base, but the damage was catastrophic. The cleanup and repair of K-123 took nearly a decade, involving the complete removal of the reactor compartment and its replacement with a new one. The submarine did not return to service until 1992, ironically just as the Soviet Union collapsed and the class was being slated for retirement. The base of operations for these titanium beasts deserves its own mention. The Alphas were primarily stationed at Gromyka Naval Base, also known as Zato Ostrovnoye.
Located on the Kola Peninsula, Gromyka was arguably one of the most desolate and difficult postings in the Soviet Navy. It was the only base equipped with the specialized steam generation infrastructure and coastal heating plants required to keep the Alpha's reactors from freezing while docked. The sailors called it the planet of flying dogs due to the fierce winds that swept off the Barents Sea. The isolation of Gromyka mirrored the isolation of the Alpha crews. They were a caste apart, dealing with technology that regular naval maintenance crews could not touch. The human cost extended to the designers as well. The chief designer of Project 705, Mikhail Rusanov, of the Malachite Marine Engineering Bureau, bore the weight of these failures. After the initial failure of K-64 in 1972, where the coolant froze and the reactor cracked, the Soviet Naval Command looked for a scapegoat. Despite Rusanov's brilliance in creating a hull and automation system decades ahead of its time, he was effectively removed from the program in 1974. He died in 1986, never seeing his creation fully vindicated, though his titanium hull concepts would heavily influence the later Sierra Class, Project 945, and the current Yasin Class submarines. The final chapter of the Alpha Class is perhaps the most chemically complex. Decommissioning a standard pressurized water reactor is difficult, but decommissioning an Alpha was a radiological puzzle. You cannot simply drain a reactor filled with solid lead bismuth. The spent nuclear fuel rods were frozen inside the metal coolant. When the submarines were finally scrapped in the 1990s and early 2000s, the Russians lacked the funds and technology to safely unload the cores. It became an international emergency. If the hulls corroded, the radioactive material could contaminate the Arctic. France and the United Kingdom eventually stepped in with funding and technical assistance. At the Gromyka storage facility, specialized heating equipment had to be built to remelt the coolant, decades after the reactors were shut down, just to extract the fuel rods. The reactor compartments were then cut out of the titanium hulls, sealed in protective containers, and moved to long-term storage at Sida Bay. The Project 705 Lira was not just a weapon, it was a scientific experiment conducted on the front lines of the Cold War. It proved that titanium could be welded for deep-diving hulls, a lesson that allows modern Russian submarines to dive deeper than their NATO counterparts. It proved that crew sizes could be drastically reduced through automation, a philosophy seen in the modern Russian Yasin class. But it also served as a monolithic warning. In the battle between theoretical physics and logical reality, reality always wins. The Alpha was the fastest submarine in history, but it couldn't outrun its own melting point.